Egypt, the cradle of one of the most fascinating civilizations in history, has always captivated the imagination of people around the world. Among the many pharaohs who ruled the land of the Nile, one stands out as a revolutionary figure, a leader whose vision and bold decisions forever altered the course of Egyptian history. This is the story of Akhenaten, the pharaoh who dared to challenge centuries-old traditions and redefine the identity of his kingdom. Akhenaten, originally named Amenhotep IV, ascended to the throne of Egypt during the 18th dynasty, around 353 BCE. He inherited a prosperous and powerful kingdom, enriched by trade and military conquest. His father, Amenhotep II, was one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs, leaving his son a legacy of stability and wealth. Yet, Amenhotep IV's reign would not follow the path of his predecessors. Early in his rule, he made a decision that would send shockwaves through the kingdom. He rejected the traditional pantheon of Egyptian gods in favor of a single deity, the Aten, represented by the sun disk. This marked the beginning of a religious and cultural revolution that historians now call the Amarna period. For centuries, the people of Egypt had worshipped a complex array of gods and goddesses, each associated with specific aspects of life and nature. The chief deity was Amun, whose temple at Karnak was one of the most important religious centers in the ancient world. Priests of Amun wielded immense political power, often rivaling that of the pharaoh himself. Akhenaten's decision to elevate the Aten above all other gods was unprecedented. He declared the Aten to be the sole creator and sustainer of life, effectively introducing a form of monotheism. To emphasize this shift, he changed his name from Amenhotep, which means Amenhotep, which means Amun is satisfied, to Akhenaten, meaning servant of the Aten. This radical move was not just a spiritual declaration but also a political strategy. By diminishing the power of the Amun priesthood, Akhenaten sought to centralize authority in his own hands. However, this disruption of the religious status quo alienated many within the kingdom, particularly the influential clergy and traditionalists. As part of his devotion to the Aten, Akhenaten decided to build a new capital city, far from the established power centers of Thebes and Memphis. This city, named Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, was envisioned as a physical manifestation of his religious ideals. Nestled along the banks of the Nile, Akhetaten featured grand temples dedicated to the Aten, as well as palaces and residential areas for the royal court. The city's layout reflected Akhenaten's revolutionary vision. Unlike traditional Egyptian temples, which were designed as dark and mysterious sanctuaries, the temples of Akhetaten were open to sunlight, symbolizing the Aten's life-giving power. The walls of these temples were adorned with vibrant depictions of Akhenaten and his family worshipping the sun disk, emphasizing their unique relationship with the divine. No story of Akhenaten is complete without mentioning Nefertiti, his queen and partner in the Atenist revolution. Renowned for her beauty and intelligence, Nefertiti played a prominent role in court affairs and religious ceremonies. Depictions of her alongside Akhenaten suggest a partnership of equals, an unusual dynamic in ancient Egypt. Nefertiti's influence extended beyond the royal family. She was a key figure in promoting the worship of the Aten and was often shown performing rituals alongside the pharaoh. Her iconic bust, discovered in 1912, remains one of the most famous artifacts of ancient Egypt and a symbol of her enduring legacy. Under Akhenaten's rule, Egyptian art underwent a dramatic transformation. The rigid and formal styles that had characterized earlier periods gave way to a more naturalistic and expressive aesthetic. Scenes of the royal family became intimate and personal, showing Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and their children in affectionate poses, a stark departure from the stoic depictions of previous pharaohs. These artistic changes were not limited to royal imagery. Sculptors and painters embraced a more fluid and realistic approach, capturing the vitality of everyday life. However, this artistic revolution was closely tied to Akhenaten's religious vision, and much of the artwork from this period reflects the central role of the Aten in Egyptian society. Despite Akhenaten's grand ambitions, his revolution faced significant challenges. The abandonment of traditional gods alienated many Egyptians, particularly those outside the royal court. The economic and political disruption caused by the relocation of the capital and the sidelining of powerful priesthoods created widespread unrest. Furthermore, Akhenaten's focus on religious reforms came at the expense of foreign policy. Egypt's influence in the region waned, and allies in the Near East complained of neglect. The empire's borders, once secure under his predecessors, became vulnerable to external threats. Akhenaten's reign ended abruptly around 1336 BCE, and the circumstances of his death remain a mystery. Following his demise, his successors, including the famous Tutankhamun, worked to undo his reforms. The capital city of Akhetaten was abandoned, and the worship of the Aten was suppressed in favor of a return to traditional polytheism. Historians and archaeologists believe that Akhenaten's memory was deliberately erased from official records. His name was omitted from king lists, and his monuments were defaced or repurposed. This deliberate erasure, known as damnatio memoriae, reflected the extent to which his revolution was rejected by subsequent generations. Despite the backlash against his rule, Akhenaten's legacy endures. His bold attempt to redefine the spiritual and cultural identity of Egypt remains one of the most intriguing chapters in ancient history. Scholars continue to debate the significance of his monotheistic tendencies and their possible influence on later religious traditions. Akhenaten's story is a testament to the complexity of leadership and the challenges of enacting radical change. His vision of a unified faith centered on the Aten, though short-lived, offers valuable insights into the interplay between religion, politics, and culture in ancient Egypt. Today, Akhenaten is remembered as a visionary, a heretic, and a pioneer pharaoh who dared to challenge the norms of his time, and, in doing so, left an indelible mark on history.